Hello, MCU fans! Today we're going to take a look at everything we learned from the new Wonder Man trailer. And actually, technically, there have been 4 trailers. 2 recent ones, but also one at the end of last year and one at the beginning of this year. So I'm going to put everything together in what I believe is a timeline order for the series, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. So, lots to discuss. Let's dive right in and see what we can find out. Don't forget, we have an October contest running all month long. Be a subscriber, leave a comment. You could win a book or a steelbook. Best of luck. Plus, we have a membership option with lots of cool perks, so you might check it out. And hang around to the end of the video, and we'll talk about the Doomsday Countdown rewatch on the Discord. All right, so we're going to start by looking at the cool merch for the vintage Wonder Man movie. I think it probably came out in the 60s. We'll talk more about that in a second. But yeah, love the lunch pail. The villain looks like the villain there in the middle on that mug. Very, very cool. Also, I do want to mention right up front, I'm going to add this Disney Plus symbol down in the corner because in the trailers, they keep having this little Disney Plus logo, which I'm fine with it, but it's impossible to keep it in the same place on every image. So it's just easier to put this little consistent image down in the lower right corner. So wanted you to know why it was there. But okay, so first of all, this outfit from the Wonder Man movie is a crime against society. Oh my word, it looks so bad. But guess what? It's directly from the comics. This is crazy. I totally forgot this outfit existed. In West Coast Avengers number 12, my main man, Simon Williams, came marching in this exact outfit. Oh my gosh. In fact, here's another shot from the trailer, and notice it even has the yellow patch in the middle. So in the comic, he actually borrowed one of Wasp's old outfits. That's why there's a W, but notice that for the trailer, they've changed it to WM for Wonder Man. But even has the terrible looking jetpack, the yellow jetpack on the back. I can't believe it. I cannot believe that this existed. Wow. All right, so anyway, like I said, this movie looks like from the 60s. In fact, it looks like one of the OG Star Trek episodes. I mean, the fights are totally cheesy. The spaceship looks terrible. So very, very funny. But the key is, young Simon Williams, he does not mind at all. That's him watching in the movie because we see him here with his dad. And so, like, let's say he's 10 in this scene, and of course the actor that plays adult Simon Williams, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, is 39 years old, then maybe this is like 28, 29 years ago, so late 90s when this scene is happening. But they're probably watching a vintage Wonder Man movie from the 60s, so maybe this is like Saturday matinees at the movies. All right, so now on to present-day Hollywood. And in fact, I want you to go ahead and keep an eye on this guy because I think he ties together a couple different shots. In fact, notice what he's wearing. I think that's him there in the center. And then over on the right, it looks like someone has got blood splattered all over them. I think this is a scene or preparing for a scene from American Horror Story. So why do I say that? Because in the next shot, we're going to see, well, first of all, the guy, notice on the left, I think that's the same guy, but notice the open door. If we zoom in, it is for American Horror Story. So, yep, that makes it canon to the MCU. And the character for the door that's open is Professor Harpin. So keep that name in mind. We're going to come back to that in just a second. But I thought it's also funny that this one just says featured nun. And there were a lot of nuns in American Horror Story. But also, if this is truly American Horror Story, then I'm going to bet we're going to get a Ralph Bohner cameo. Remember, he was last seen in Agatha All Along. And why do I say I think he'll show up? Well, because the actor that plays him is Evan Peters. And Evan Peters has played several characters in American Horror Story, almost every season, in fact. This is one of them. This is one of my favorites. That looks awesome. So, yeah, that would be epic if we got a Ralph Bohner cameo, and that probably means the Wonder Man series then is happening after Agatha All Along, which places us at least in the fall of 2026 for the Wonder Man series. All right, so notice that Simon Williams is actually playing Professor Harpin, and he's taking all kinds of notes on this script. He's definitely a method actor, really wants to get into the backstories and understand who the character is he's playing. And here we see him getting ready to go and do some scenes. He's getting into the mood of his character, the facial features there. Obviously, a scene out of American Horror Story, you're probably doing that a lot. And then he looks into the mirror and says, you just got to go out there and crush it. Okay, so I'm guessing this is early in the series when he was doing a part on American Horror Story. And then we move to the big announcement that Von Kovak is bringing back Wonder Man. The entertainment world is stunned today when internationally celebrated and reclusive filmmaker Von Kovak sprung out of retirement to sign on for his first franchise film and remake of Wonder Man. Okay, I actually think this is so helpful in placing the show on the timeline. Because remember, I said it's probably after Agatha all along, so that would place us at least in the fall of 2026. But notice over on the right, it says don't miss out on this week's features, and then 2 of the articles have dates of March 24th and April 1st. So, okay, that may mean that we're in late March, early April of 2027. So I'm going to go out on a limb with an early timeline placement. I'm going to guess spring of 2027. Let me know your thoughts on that, but I do think that fits really, really well. All right, so then we learn why Kovak wants to make this movie. He says, your question is why one more superhero film here? I mean, everyone is tired of superheroes. Too funny. Why go and see them in the cinema? He says, Wonder Man spoke to me on a deep level. This is an opportunity to reimagine the whole genre of storytelling. He says this is an opportunity to shock. And then I think it's kind of funny. The next shot is these dudes, and they say, holy, and they cut them off before they finish. But what on earth is Kovak sharing that made these guys react that way? Well, anyway, then he's asked, have you given any thoughts about casting? And that's when we see that Simon Williams himself is watching this and probably thinking, oh my goodness, I have to be in this movie. All right, so then we see that Simon and Trevor are good friends. In fact, it looks like they went to the movies together. Every one of those movies is from the 60s, which fits with the fact that as a kid, Simon Williams watched those vintage movies, the vintage superhero movie Wonder Man from the 60s. Also, keep an eye out for what both he and Trevor are wearing. That's going to tie a bunch of scenes together. So kind of look at their clothes right now and keep those in your head. But anyway, Simon says, so what's this big audition you were talking about? And Trevor's like, it's a huge opportunity. I'm auditioning for Wonder Man. Oh man, that's not going to work, Trevor. You are not Wonder Man material. But this definitely gets Simon dead set on wanting to audition. So this building here, I think, is where his agent works, because we now see him entering the building and says, did you hear about Wonder Man? And he says to his agent, I need to be in this movie. And she's like, Simon, you crazy. And he's like, no, I was born to play this character. Remember, he's loved the character since he was a little kid. And she's like, oh, you serious? They already talking to Leo. So obviously Leonardo DiCaprio, canon to the MCU. But yeah, I do think this is his agent, and we actually see her several times throughout the trailer. I'm not quite sure what she's doing here, but we'll see her calling him again later. But okay, he is dead set on this audition. Notice he's still wearing the same clothes. He basically just headed straight in to check in, and obviously a lot of people are doing this audition. It's an open audition, clearly. And he's looking over the script, trying to get himself in the right mindset. Notice there's a sign back here that says yard sale. I thought maybe that could help us from a timeline standpoint, but honestly, in LA, it's always sunny and warm, so really you could have a yard sale any time of year. So unfortunately, that doesn't really help. But okay, so he's looking over the script while I think Trevor is in there auditioning. And in fact, we hear distant laughing, and this one guy's like, hey, the guy in there is killing it, bro. Well, I'm not sure that's what's actually happening, because then we see inside and everybody's just laughing. They're like, where have I seen him before? And Trevor's like, uh-oh, I think they remember me. Oh, they do, Trevor, they do. They're like, pretty sure he used to be a terrorist. And of course, we get this shot from Iron Man 3 reminding us that, yeah, he was at least a fake terrorist. So yeah, I don't think it goes well for him. Then I think he goes out to help Simon. It's like, if I can't get the part, let me help you get the part. So he says, what's wrong? And Simon's like, I'm trying to come up with a backstory for the character. And remember, when he was playing that Professor Harpin, he was really into the method acting, understanding, what's his role and who does he like and who does he hate? What's his backstory? So Trevor's like, look, just trust the words, just show up and say them. And he's like, nah, that's not my process. So unfortunately, it's going to have to be his process because he does not have time to prepare. So now we see him heading in as they call next, and he says, Simon Williams reading for Wonder Man. So we can assume that things went well enough for him, right? Because then he gets a phone call, and it's his agent saying, listen to me, Simon, the callback is happening now. Just be normal. So once again, look at the clothes he's wearing. It's kind of a sweater, and there's like a little, X cross thing in the front there. But okay, she says, normal man, the breakdown is go method, which that's what he loves to do, right? So then we see he and Trevor together. And by the way, this is one of those earlier trailers. This was from like the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, when they thought the series was happening this year. But notice what Trevor's wearing. Notice Simon's wearing the same sweater. So it looks like they're driving in together to head to Kovak's mansion. So the callback is actually at Kovak's mansion itself. So this lady opens the door. She says, "Come in. Mr. Kovak will meet you in the living room." So, man, this place looks nice, right? Look at that. That is just beautiful. So they're walking down the hallway, trying to get themselves in the mood. But it turns out there's a bunch of people there, or at least 4 other people, right? And they're like, "So you're all here to meet Von Kovak?" And they're like, "Mm-hmm." So what's up with these guys? I want to know what's going on here. But anyway, Kovak then comes in the room and says, "Hello, everyone." And now finally I was able to peg where I've seen this guy before. Earlier in the video, his hair was kind of slicked back, but now with that hairdo, oh, totally, that's the Moravian president from the Superman movie. Oh my goodness. He plays the most crazy, eccentric, Albert Einstein-looking people that you can imagine. So, too funny. Anyway, I love that Trevor's like, "Hello," right back at him. But he explains, "I want to explore the place between fiction and nonfiction." That's interesting. That's going to be interesting to see what that means in the context of the show. And this dude's like, "That's tight." Sorry, man, you do not sound cool. Just give it up. Give it up. Anyway, Kovak says, "We're going to make the last movie on Earth." What? In fact, he even says, "No one will have we'll go with courage to make another." And both Simon and Trevor are like, what is going on right now? So anyway, they're walking through then his house as he takes them to the vision board. All right, this is crazy. Okay, so this shot is from the earlier trailer from a year ago. Now, if you remember the current trailer, you might be like, wait, something's missing. Yes, it is. Keep an eye on the left side and notice, oh, look, there's a bit more in the latest trailer, right? You see the difference there, right? All the Marvel heroes that were added in. Captain America, Black Panther, Thor, Iron Man. What's going on? Why were they hiding that before? And then also, this is kind of weird. Look over on the right. Notice in the latest trailer, there's a blank spot. But in the first trailer was like an alien egg, I guess. Maybe they weren't allowed to use that, so they got rid of it? What on earth? Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. So I don't know what to think about that. I don't even know what it's going to look like in the final show. But for now, at least, they definitely changed some things around. All right, so then what is going on here? This is from one of the earlier trailers, and they're running out of the building. And I know it's got to be tied to this scene somehow, because Trevor's got the same outfit. He even has the same little handkerchief there, the little yellow handkerchief. And Simon's got his same sweatshirt and jeans. But this can't be Kovak's house, right? It wouldn't look that bad behind the house, but there's other dudes running out too. So I don't know, this is crazy. And then suddenly they're in the car trying to drive away. Remember last time Simon was driving. Now it's Trevor that's driving. And then there's this shot where Trevor's saying it's not too late to turn this around. What is going on? And notice he's got the same little yellow handkerchief there. So I don't know how this is going to tie in when the series arrives, but I'm really, really curious to see this in context. All right, so now we see that he's calling his agent, probably has been doing this many times. He says, is there any news from Kovak? And she says, if there is news, you'll be the first to know, unless you call me again, in which case I will never tell you. So yeah, she's getting really annoyed that he keeps calling. And notice he's got the chin-up bar there. I mean, dude is jacked, so it totally makes sense he has workout stuff in the house. All right, so then we get this shot from an earlier trailer, and notice what Simon's wearing, like a dress shirt, dress pants, and Trevor's wearing that jacket. And Trevor says, we both have a lot, should say writing instead of writing, closed captioning, total mess, right? But anyway, we've got a lot writing on this, so you better not mess this up. So then I think they go here to do like a photo shoot. I don't know what he's doing here, but notice there, we got Trevor taking a shot of him. In fact, here's a close-up of Trevor and his camera. And then Trevor seems to be happy, like it's going well. So I don't know if they're taking these photos before or after he gets the job, but obviously he gets hired. And in fact, here we see him driving around the lot in his bathrobe, apparently. So things are going well for him. And we see Trevor getting made up, so he must also have a part in the Wonder Man movie. Looks like they're getting ready to shoot, getting all the props in place. Von Kovak is saying action. And sure enough, we get the clapboard. And I love this. Notice it says Cash Grab 2. So just like Marvel movies have, fake names that they film under, this one is filmed under the fake name of Cash Grab 2. That is awesome. Going to be so many good inside meta jokes about Hollywood. Cannot wait. All right. So now what is going on here? That looks like the director, Kovak, but he's got a lasso and he's dressed like a cowboy? I got no clue. In fact, these people looking on have no clue. So we'll have to wait and see what this means. But this is really weird. Okay, so it's black and white, first of all, and there's this dude singing, I guess, but then the lights seem to be exploding because here's another shot right after it. And notice now the people on the left there are kind of covering their head. They're getting worried. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about this. Really curious to see this in context. And also, this is kind of a random shot of them driving around to LA at night. So not sure what's going on here. And then this shot, I think, is where he actually gets his powers. So this is from that trailer from a year ago. And notice he's screaming out in pain. And all around him, it looks like things are starting to crumble and fall apart. I don't know if he's being hit with energy, maybe. But then we get a shot from outside the building. And literally the building is exploding, I guess, from inside. So yeah, he's definitely getting his powers here. This is an interesting shot of his eyeball. I'm betting that this will turn ultimately like red, because he's got his superpowers. And then this is pretty wild. So he's sitting at a table, and let's zoom in on this and flip it around, and it says, "Happy birthday." So celebrating his birthday, celebrating somebody else's birthday, I don't know, but he definitely has his powers now because he has an angry outburst and destroys this table, just hammers it. So, is he mad that somebody's not there with him at the birthday party? Did somebody die? Did something happen? Really, really curious to see what that's all about. And then I love this shot. That is what I call styling. I kind of hope that's his superhero outfit, to be honest. Looks so, so cool. All right, so now I'm going to talk briefly about some of the cast members we didn't see in the trailer, but that we know are in the movie. No leaks, no spoilers, only official information. So we'll start with an interview that Demetrius Gross gave where he explained that he's playing Eric Williams because he was asked about it, and he said, "I think people are going to be intrigued by the dynamic between Simon Williams and Eric Williams as much as the dynamic between the Grim Reaper and Wonder Man." So obviously he confirmed that he's in the show, he's playing Eric Williams, and he is the Grim Reaper. So we may remember the tease for the Grim Reaper from WandaVision. That's over on the left when we saw the Grim Reaper's helmet. And then on the right, that's the Grim Reaper from the comics. So have no idea if he's actually going to put on a crazy outfit like that or not. But either way, he's playing Simon's brother, and it's going to be really interesting to see their dynamic in the show. Also, we know that Ed Harris is playing Hollywood agent Neil Sarian because Deadline reported on it. And honestly, if Deadline reports on something, that's basically Marvel because Marvel gives them these stories. So the article says last year he narrated Wyatt Earp and the Cowboy War, and up next he will play Hollywood agent Neil Sarian in Marvel's Wonder Man for Disney+. So what kind of confused me is we saw that he has an agent already. So I wonder if she gets bumped out once he gets, the big movie. Like, you need a new agent now. But anyway, Neil Sarian in the comics was introduced in Wonder Man #1, which makes sense because that's when he went and did his acting gig. He already had his superpowers at that point, but he became an actor. And on the right, that's him from the comics, Neil Sarian. And in the comics, at least, he actually has superpowers, at least some form of mind control or mind persuasion. So very helpful if you're a Hollywood agent to have a power like that. So we'll see if he has any superpowers in the series. And then lastly, so excited that Agent Cleary is coming back. Once again, Deadline was the one to come in and confirm this. Of course, we last saw Agent Cleary in both No Way Home and Ms. Marvel. And he's one of the heads, if not the head, of Damage Control. And I hope we learn all kinds of updates on what is going on with that organization. So yeah, really cool cast. There are others, if you want to Google, that have been rumored to be in. But again, I'm trying to stick to only things that have been officially announced. So now we have, unfortunately, an extra month to wait because it was going to be in December 2025 and it has moved to January 2027. Brad Winderbaum said it was to avoid the Christmas holidays, which makes sense. But anyway, 8 episodes coming. Probably going to be 8 weeks long, or maybe they'll drop a couple episodes at once, but they're definitely not going to drop all episodes at once, which is great. So what do you think about all this? What do you think about the show, the characters, everything we've learned from the trailers, maybe the timeline placement? I've tried my best, but if you think I got anything wrong, just let me know, because I love to read and respond to everything. So don't forget about that contest. Be a subscriber, leave a comment, win a book or a steelbook, and of course the membership option in case you're interested in that. And I always love to mention the Discord. Here we are in Marvel Timelines trying to figure out what exactly is the timeline going to be for this show. And I promised I would talk about the Doomsday Countdown rewatch. Every day listed here at 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll watch a different movie or show as we head towards the December 18, 2026 release of Doomsday. So we have 2,400 members across the globe, conversations 24/7, and I'll leave a pinned comment so you can join. Also, if you don't mind, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we'll all continue to enjoy the ever-growing, the ever-changing Marvel Cinematic Universe.